better person to talk to about ChatGPT and about artificial intelligence than one of the leading data scientists in the ecosystem, and also someone who is a big part of the Columbia digital health ecosystem, having taken a few different courses from the Columbia Business School Executive Education Program. Eugenio Zuccarelli. Hi, Eugenio. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, it's Dan. Great to be here.
It's great to see you. And if you could just start by giving the audience an idea of your background and what you do within CVS Health.
Yeah, definitely. I'll do my best, especially to talk about ChatGPT. But I basically do, as you were saying, digital health, AI in the healthcare ecosystem, and I've been doing it for a few years now. I'm currently a manager in data science at CVS Health, where we do literally that. We do big data. We use that a lot, and we especially do it to pretty much implement AI solutions in the healthcare spectrum. So we focus a lot on diseases like diabetes, hypertension, and a few other to try and improve the well-being of the people that are affected by these diseases. And we try to do so also relatively smart. We try to predict this, look ahead in the future, and see whether we can do this effectively. And I've been doing this for a few years before. I was at MIT doing research, and previously I've been working a lot with the NHS in the UK. So always able to draw some parallels from the European market, the European system, and the American one.
I love it. And I detect your accent is not a New York accent. Where are you from originally?
That's right. I'm originally from Italy. So I've been doing a lot of my studies back in Italy, then moved to the UK, and now happily in the US.
Excellent. And again, I've got family in Naples. Which part of Italy are you from?
I'm originally from Genova, so on the northwest coast. Family's been a bit all over the place there, mostly from the Liguria region, so mostly from there, from Cinque Terre, all that region, and now we're a bit over the world.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful place to be from. Wonderful. Almost as beautiful as New York. So it's great to
Right.
it's great to talk about this. Everybody is talking about generative language programs like BERT. Certainly, we had one of the leading data scientists from Anthem on last month's Symposium talking about BERT and showing actually some Python language and things like this. Obviously, it's this month it's super hot as well. Everyone is seeing now a lot of applications for certainly data science and certainly these large language databases that are taking the world by storm and covering a lot. And we're seeing some fairly substantial doom and gloom as well. People are talking about how we need to start regulating AI. It could potentially get too powerful. What's your thought around this? And talk a little bit to the audience and explain a little bit about big data and how you guys are using that, and then and is it something that is it open for like a generative language program like ChatGPT?
Yeah, definitely. And as you were saying, big data is pretty much the key word. It's difficult usually to define big data. There is no clear definition. There is no specific size or amount. It's usually defined just as data that is complex. It's complex to manage. Usually, I tend to think of it as just data that cannot stay in Excel. So that's something that is open to interpretation, but it's definitely something that we use. It's literally the fuel to everything we do, especially in the AI spectrum. And it's also the fuel to things like ChatGPT, BERT, all of these algorithms. So it's extremely important, and especially in the digital health data, you can see how we have a lot of untapped potential for these raw resources in the databases, in the systems. And it's the classic issue with interoperability, right? Like you have this massive potential, but it's stuck in systems and databases. And now we're starting to see some algorithms like ChatGPT, BERT, and so on, have a lot of potential, in my opinion. But like with every technology, it's neither good nor bad in itself. It's depending on how we use it and how we apply it. But it's for sure something that for an industry like the healthcare one, we have to be very careful, because the potential with systems like ChatGPT is extremely high. These tools are extremely powerful, and for this reason, they might hold some secrets or have some capabilities or potentials that might be disruptive for an industry. So definitely pro-regulation. It's more about how can we strike the balance between innovating and pushing in this direction to do the right things, but at the same time regulating to make sure that we don't get into issues, especially in healthcare.
Yeah, that's a major, and it's a complex component too, because certainly at CVS Health, you're sitting in the middle of the reimbursement system, but you're also heavily regulated on a lot of things that you can and cannot say and you can and cannot do. And you're probably, if not the largest holder of patient information and patient data, you're one of the top three, right?
Yeah, it's a massive opportunity. It's a massive ecosystem. It's literally, as you said, about how can you use it. We have data, we have potential. It's more about how can we pick the right battles, and especially in a way that is ethical, doesn't introduce bias, and so on. So that's, I would say, the key components. Like, let's say, my team and I, all of the people that work in many big healthcare companies or tech companies do have the skills. The technology, the AI technology is open source, but that doesn't mean that we have to just jump on it and just use it, because there are huge potential ethical implications and huge potential bias issues. I would say that's one of the key components and one of the key differentiators across companies is it's very easy to get into the challenge. It's much more difficult to think about all of the potential issues and make sure we can take a rational decision there.
Now, what's your take on this? Do you think, some people are calling like Elon Musk, do you think that we should be regulating AI more in healthcare, or should we just let people do what they want to do?
It's a challenging one, because I would say overall, personally, I tend to think that over the past, maybe there would have been more potential in finding solutions to, like not open source data, but make it more available, anonymized, secure, private. But I think that there would have been a great opportunity to allow researchers, institutions to access data, especially data from a lot of different areas like lab results, genetic information, to come up with better research and better models that would have improved people's outcomes. And now with tools like ChatGPT, I'll be honest, they've also been impressive for me working in the industry. So I would say for sure it's good to regulate, especially for the healthcare industry. It's more a matter of what to do with that and in which areas.
That's very interesting. And you're looking at this as well, Eugenio. You're seeing it from the health plan perspective, which is so valuable for so many people who are watching this now around the world. What from your perspective is the biggest promise for data science and for AI, particularly some of these new generative language programs for health plans? How do you think this, in 5 years from now, how do you think this is going to help health plans, and the data science behind it are going to help health plans in the United States?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say I'm a bit more skeptical, also talking about innovation versus regulation, a bit more skeptical about the usage of these technologies on the clinical spectrum, right? I would love for it to take a bit more time before we use ChatGPT to take decisions or diagnosis. I want to keep that in doctors' hands, but I think it's a massive potential in everything that's more operational in the life of the doctor. So much of the time of the doctor is spent in entering information in a database, in an IT system. We know how difficult it is to find the right ICD-10 code, the right CPT code, and they waste so much of their time. And so my hope is that ChatGPT or whatever other technology is going to be able to, let's say, have a doctor that just talks to the system, writes down a summary. Then you have a generative AI language system that takes that information and then picks automatically the right ICD-10 codes, takes the right decisions, schedules the appointments, and so on. So relieving the doctor from the burden of the management of the clinical components and focusing more on the actual patient, which is the most important thing.
It's brilliant. No, it's absolutely brilliant. That it's pretty clear that that's where a lot of investment's going. Obviously, health plans over the last 10 years with some pretty notable companies have spent a lot on artificial intelligence. What percent of those programs that you've worked on in artificial intelligence over the last 10 years have actually worked the way they were originally intended? Would you say it's been like 50%, 10%? How well are those programs working today?
It's difficult. I'd say probably 50% is a good estimate. It's also very important. That's exactly what you said. It's very important to think about AI systems very scalably and flexibly at the beginning, because they might change down the line. And so it's really important to know and think about all of the potential implications, different ways to use them, because it's never a 100% certain type of thing. It's usually just more about being flexible and try things out. So a lot about experiments and try and error.
Yeah, talk about that too. When you've been working with big data, you obviously have seen a lot of challenges. And what kind of challenges have you seen, and what kind of advice would you give to executives in the audience who are watching this now and are looking for advice from someone as experienced as you are about how to use big data and what kind of challenges to avoid when they're doing that in their enterprise?
Yeah, there are quite a few challenges. I would say one of the biggest ones, of course, is privacy, and how can we ensure that the information is kept private, even at the level of big data. So that's one for sure, is how can we ensure that we both foster innovation, use that level of big data, but we also make the situation a bit more constrained, we ensure privacy, and we make sure that there is not going to be any data breach or data leakage. And in general, so I would say obviously the interoperability issue is a huge one. There's no real solution. Maybe with generative AI technologies, there might be a solution to be able to query multiple different data sources, collect information in an easy way. I would say that's still one of the big challenges. And finally, how to manage this amount of data. It's a lot, it's difficult to process. And so investing in all of these resources might help down the line with all of the clinical components as well. So I'll say probably the bottom line is that, data is really the fuel of a lot. It's the fuel of a lot of decisions that we take. And so investing in those areas is not just about investing in IT rather than in clinical decision-making. It's actually putting down an investment for something that can pay off later in a lot of different ways.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So this is the kind of advice that the folks in our audience need to hear. So thank you, Eugenio, for joining us today, and hoping that you have a terrific spring weekend. We'll talk to you later. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.